Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Flanders and France webinar. Can everybody hear me? Can you see the chat box at the top of the page? Just want to double check that first. So welcome to the Flanders and France webinar about commemorative travel to World War I sites in Flanders and France. Today we have Marco from Flanders and Agatha from France. Marco, are you there?
I'm here, and I can hear you loud and clear. No, hopefully everybody can hear me.
Definitely, I can definitely hear you. Just one thing, we want to encourage everyone to ask questions throughout the webinar, and Marco and Agatha will answer them at the end. So just ask questions at any time in the chat box. If you have any technical difficulties, also ask them there. All right, Marco, whenever you're ready, feel free to start.
All right, thank you so much, and thank you for joining us this afternoon or this morning, depending on what part of the country you're located in. Thank you again to listen in and taking time out of your schedule. Let's talk a little bit about commemorative travel to World War I sites in Flanders and France in cooperation with our partner Untitled France, and let's just dive right into it. First of all, Flanders, Belgium, an overview. Some people might actually not know what Flanders is, where Flanders is. Of course, Flanders is a very famous cartoon character on The Simpsons, but that's not the Flanders I'm talking about today. I'm talking about a very different Flanders. I'm talking about Flanders, the northern Dutch-speaking part of Belgium. And you might wonder, why are we only talking about Flanders and not the other part? Simply because there is no more Belgium tourist office. The two separate regions have their own separate tourist offices. So Flanders, the northern Dutch-speaking part, is represented by us, Visit Flanders, and the other guys in the south, Wallonia, they have their own tourist office. So today we only talk about the northern Dutch-speaking part. We have 6 major cities in our region. Of course, the capital of Flanders, also the capital of Belgium, which is Brussels. Then we have the city of Antwerp at the northern part of the region, a seaport city. Also the world famous medieval city of Bruges, Ghent, Leuven, and Mechelen. Just to put everything in a little bit of a context so that everybody roughly knows where we are in Europe. The yellow part here, and hopefully you can see that on your screen here, that is the part of Flanders, very centrally located, just roughly about 2 hours from Amsterdam, 2 hours from London, 2 hours from Paris, and Cologne, roughly the same distance. Flanders Fields, a place to remember. Let's just dive into that a little bit more detail. So what is Flanders Fields? So Flanders Fields is the part of West Flanders that witnessed most of the battles in Belgium between 1914 and 1918 during the World War I. Of course, World War I was not just limited to Belgium or France, not just limited to a regional European conflict. We're actually talking about, World War I, which spanned across many multiple borders. So where exactly is Flanders Fields? As you can see here, Flanders is separated into several regions within the region of Flanders, and the western part of the region that is highlighted here in that reddish color, that is actually the West Flanders region, the Flanders Fields region. As you can see, it's actually southwest of Bruges. That is actually a very famous city in Flanders, just north of Lille in France, and you find a couple of very interesting, famous places within the Flanders Fields region, the most famous one being Ypres, but also other cities like Popering, Zonnebeke, and in the north, Newport and Dixmude. Here's a little bit of a magnification so you can actually see it a little bit better. So those are the 5 places within Flanders Fields, within West Flanders, that are the most famous, where most of the action, most of the commemoration actually take place. So why does it really matter? Why is Flanders Fields 100 years later still relevant? Why is World War One still relevant? Isn't it something in the past? Shouldn't we move on from the past and just look at the future? Well, not really, because it matters to our generation. If you really look what's going on in the world today, what happened 100 years ago, there's valuable learnings that we can take away, and it really allows us to connect with the past, what happened back there, especially for Canada, Canadians being the largest force within the British Commonwealth, being so prominent and really participating from day one in the activities. It's really something where a lot of Canadians have a relation with. And why does it really matter? Because it's a powerful message. It's family history for a lot of Canadians. By the end of the war, if memory serves me right, there were roughly, give or take, about 8 million Canadians that had some touch points in the World War I activities. And a lot of Canadians still remember nowadays that their great-grandfather was actually involved in World War I, and there's a family history, and that family history is still alive. And it's a collective worldwide memory. As I said, not only the Canadians saw action, but also, as I said, the British, the Newfoundlanders, which were separate at that time, Australians, New Zealanders. So there is really, in the British Commonwealth, this collective worldwide memory. And it's also an invitation to reflect on war and on peace and on courage, on loyalty and on sacrifice, which of course is very much known in Canada. The Canadian sacrifice that was made in World War I, and also when I talk about the Canadian sacrifice, if somebody is from Newfoundland, I always include those as well. I am conscious that it was a separate dominion at that time. And it is a century-old remembrance tradition. Flanders Fields is a region in Europe where you can really experience the story of World War I as a fascinating story and history of a universal message of peace. Because after the war, it's also a story of reconciliation, especially when you include World War II, that, the European nations really managed to reconcile and come together and remember what happened and rebuild Europe and rebuild the story of peace and reconciliation. And that's also where we as Visit Flanders, as the tourist office, come in. Flanders Fields, a place to remember. The 100-year remembrance is a responsible act, but it also offers great opportunities for us and for the world. The 5 destinations that I had pointed out, Ypres, Zonnebeke, Popering, Dixmude, and Newport, saw a lot of infrastructure and investments in the last couple of years as we geared up to that commemoration of the 100-year anniversary from 2014 to 2018. And a total of 15 million euros were actually invested in 44 visitor-related projects. And the 5 strategic projects in all those 5 strategic cities really provide, gateway experiences to what happened in World War I. So for us, as a tourist office, we not only promote the destination, but Visit Flanders actually also does own a lot of the infrastructure in the destination. And we've really made a commitment to invest in this infrastructure. Ypres, a couple of images here. Menin Gate, very famous. The last post that you can see here, the cloth hole in the lower right-hand corner. Zonnebeke Passchendaele with the cemeteries, the museum here, where you can see a lot of visitors in that image, looking at some historic grenades. These are all originals. I was actually just there last week. So it's very much alive also with me. It's a very moving experience. It's also a destination where you can see a lot of events happening, and there's a lot of events continuously going on. With the last post that you can see here, Coming World Remembers, where you can see that clay structures are formed, where the goal is that we create 600,000 clay structures representing one dead soldier that fought in West Flanders, and then by the end of the project, 2018, those 600,000 clay structures will be placed out in Flanders Fields, and you can actually be part of that commemoration. You can go to Ypres and actually create your own clay structure. I created my own last October when I was there with a fam trip that we did for the Canadian market. And it's all about the history, the art, the participation, and making it, interactive, not just a passive experience where you just stand there and look at it, but actually it's an active involvement. Exploration made easy. How to get there? Of course, if you decide to fly into Brussels, that's the only really major international airport that we have in Belgium, then it's relatively easy to get into a car or take public transportation by train to go from Brussels to Ypres, or to Bruges if you want to place yourself in Bruges. Although alternatively, if you want to start your tour in France first, it's very easy to fly into France and to Paris, and then commute then to the World War I region. In Flanders, we do offer various ways to visit by organized bus coach tours, van tours. So there's a lot of companies out there in Ypres that offer those tours. Or you can also do it individually by yourself. You can do it by foot. Ypres is very easy to walk around. You can do it by bicycle, by bike. It's very easy to bike around, or by car. You can find a lot of designated World War I routes where they're either self-guided, and they have particular themes. Everything is really well indicated. The information is typically in 4 languages, meaning in English, French, Dutch, and also maybe German as well. Most are well-trained hosts. They speak English, they speak French, so it's really easy to find a guide. You have quality accommodations in the destination, and also a lot of emphasis was placed by our organization on accessible travel, because although somebody might have a certain physical handicap, they should not be prevented from seeing the destination. Just a very quick overview, just picking out one city, Ypres, the main city in West Flanders. Just to give you a little bit of a high-level overview, there's 14 licensed hotels. They offer over 400 rooms. There's bed and breakfast places. There's self-catering holiday accommodations. There's also accommodations for school groups, because I know school travel is very important, especially from the Canadian market, where students come over, and there's even campsites available. As said, Tourism for All, that's really an initiative that we focused on making it accessible, but also catering to the school and youth groups. And Tourism Plus is another initiative that we have in place here, where we really focus with that type of commemorative travel to pay respect to the fallen, on historical facts and the memorial landscape, responsible hosting, offering quality experiences, making it accessible, space for different views and traditions, deepening the knowledge and insights, internationalizing the World War I experience, not just that it's a local experience, it's a local commemoration. No, it's actually a global, it's a European, it's a worldwide collective memory that really affects all of us, that we all can learn from what happened. And it's really a message of peace for the future, that we learn from the past, learn from what happened. A couple of quick practical tips as I wrap up my section here. Of course, the languages that are spoken in our region in Flanders are Dutch, and everybody also speaks English, but also French is spoken primarily in Brussels. For the electrical current, we use 230 volts. If you want to bring something over, most mobile devices have multi-voltage adapters, but you need an adapter for the US or the Canadian North American plug, because in Europe the plugs are round. The currency is, of course, the euro. Credit cards are widely accepted. City cards, which you also find in other cities, they offer great savings where you can combine various attractions on one card. Typically, the store opening hours are from 10 to 6. The time zone is the Central European time, which is Eastern time plus 6 hours. And the nice thing, a little bit different from what you're used to in North America, is typically in Belgium, Flanders, the tips are already included in the price that you pay for your meal, for your service. Quick overview of how you can actually travel to Belgium now. It's just specifically focused on arrivals into Brussels. From Canada, we have 2 direct flights, one out of Montreal with Air Canada, and very new out of Toronto with Brussels Airlines. And you might think, wait a minute, Brussels Airlines flies out of Toronto? Yes, they are taking over the route from Jet Airways, the Indian carrier, will no longer fly from Toronto, and Brussels Airlines is taking over, and the first inaugural flight will be in the next couple of weeks. And there's also possibilities to connect from US airports or connect from any other European airport. For example, that you fly into Paris, then you take the Eurostar Thalys train, and then you're right in our destination. So if you want to extend a warm invitation, there's like over 600,000 victims on Belgium soul from over 50 countries, a lot of Canadians, a lot of Canadian cemeteries. So a warm invitation to Canada to come and visit. Commemorate World War I, explore West Flanders, explore Flanders Fields, experience all the other cutting-edge craftsmanship that you can find in Flanders. I don't have a slide to go into that, but I just wanted to remind you that it's not just all doom and gloom, so to speak, about World War I. It's a vibrant region. You can experience great Flemish cuisine, great cooking, Michelin star chefs. You can go cycling. You can experience Belgian beers, Belgian chocolates, waffles. So it's a great destination, not just about World War I, but also about many other great things. So warm welcome. Welcome to Flanders. Welcome to Flanders Fields. Welcome to Brussels. And if you have any additional questions, you can contact me right here in New York City. I'm available. We have a couple of websites as well, a couple of resources. And with that being said, I will wrap up my part and hand over to my colleague Agathe in France, and then she can present to you the French side of the World War I commemorative travel. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Marco. That was great. I just want to remind people that they can ask questions throughout the webinar, and that we'll also be sending out a recording of the webinar. So if they've missed anything, they can also rewatch the webinar and share it with their colleagues. All right, Agatha, are you there?
I'm here. I can hear you. Hello.
Great. Whenever you're ready, feel free to get started.
Okay, thank you everyone to attend this webinar. I'm Agatha Bourdret from the Northern France Regional Tourist Board, and I'm talking to you directly from France, from Lille exactly. So I'm here today to represent the Western Front and let you discover the main Canadian and main remembrance sites of the Western Front 1914-1918. What is the Western Front and the destination contract? This destination contract centenary of the Great War was created in 2013. It gathers the different institutional and private actors of the French sector of the Western Front. All the regions worked together to promote the Western Front, and it allows me to present you today a comprehensive offer focused on the First World War. This is the logo of the Western Front. As you can notice, there are 3 different flowers. The blue cornflower is for France, the forget-me-not for Germany, and the poppy, as you all know, is for the Commonwealth. Quickly, some key facts about remembrance tourism in France. So as you can see on the map of France, there are 2 main visited territories. The Western Front, coming from the upper north part of France until the east. So this is the Western Front, and the other big part is the DD beaches. They correspond both to 2 different periods. The first one is the First World War, and the second one is the Second World War. There are more than 45% of the visitors of remembrance tourism that come from abroad. So that's why I'm talking to you today. Added to that, 40% of the clients are coming in an organized group. So your implication is really important to us. Tourism benefits of remembrance tourism in France are really important. The centenary of the Great War has boosted the number of visitors, and especially for long-distance visitors such as Canadians, Americans, and Australians also. And for example, in Nord-Pas-de-Calais, as you can see, the Wellington Quarry has a plus of almost 72% compared to 2013 on the same period. So now a quick word about the history of the Canadian troops on the Western Front. In September 1915, the Canadian Corps was established, and it formed an important part of the troops of the British Empire at the Battle of the Somme. This is the first involvement of the Western Front in northern France and in Belgium. In 1917, in April exactly, the Canadian troops seized the Vimy Ridge in Artois. And in August 1918, they took part in the fighting at Lens, Cambrai, and Amiens. What is important to remember is that there are two big memorials that remind this price paid by the Canadians. This is the Vimy Memorial, which was renovated in 2007, as well as the Beaumont-Hamel Memorial Park. There are lots of new openings and renovation. One of them is in April 2017. Next year, we are really waiting for it, the new education center in Vimy. So now I'm going to give you an overview of the different Canadian and main remembrance sites in the Western Front. As my colleague Marco showed you, it's easy to come to Northern France or to Belgium. You have 3 different airports, one in London, in Brussels, and in Paris. And you can visit the different remembrance sites in Belgium and in the Western Front during the same trip, because the 2 regions are really next to each other. So I'm going to present you the different sites in geographical order, starting from the north and with the major Canadian sites, which is the Vimy Ridge National Historic Site of Canada. So it's the first time that the 4 Canadian divisions have been concentrated in order to lead an attack against the German position on the Vimy Ridge during a larger operation called the Battle of Arras, launched in April 1917. They were really well prepared under a Canadian commandment, and it's a huge success for the Canadian troops, interpreted as a major page on Canadian national history. Vimy Ridge was chosen after World War I by the Canadian government to erect this national memorial, which paid tribute to all the soldiers who fought during the First World War. It was inaugurated in 1936. As an anecdote, you will be able to look at your $20 banknote, the Canadian one, and you will find this Vimy memorial on this $20 banknote. Another site, a really important one for Canadian, is the Vimereux Communal Cemetery. In this cemetery lies the Lieutenant Colonel John McCrae. McCrae was the author of the famous poem In Flanders Fields that you all have already heard or read. It's In Flanders Fields, the poppy blow, between the crosses row and row. So he was the author of this poem, which he dedicated to those who fell in the Great War. This poem contributed greatly to the poppy being chosen as a symbol of remembrance. The Cabaret Rouge British Cemetery in Souchez is also a cemetery that you have to visit if you come to Northern France, because this is where the body of the unknown Canadian soldier was exhumed in 2000, and who now lies in front of Canada's National War Memorial in Ottawa's Confederation Square. An interesting cemetery, which is the Zivy and Lichvet craters. They are the only ones on the Western Front with this original shape. There are no graves, only panels with the names of the soldiers who were buried there. The second biggest Canadian memorial is the one in Beaumont-Hamel. The Beaumont-Hamel Newfoundland Memorial remembers the Battle of the Somme, which took place on the 1st of July in 1916. It was the biggest offensive led by the British Army. Men from the Newfoundland Regiment left their trenches and were immediately trapped under German machine gun fire. As you can see, the caribou is the symbol of the Newfoundland Regiment. you can see 4 other ones are to be found in northern France. Now I'm going to show you some other key remembrance sites, starting from the gateway to France, Paris. One of the great new museums I can advise you to visit is the Musée de la Grande Guerre du Pays de Meaux, which is dedicated to First World War and is one of the last museums to see. And the Army Museum is similar, in Paris, which is similar to the Canadian War Museum in Ottawa. The Ring of Remembrance, you shouldn't miss it. On November the 11th, 2014, the President Hollande himself inaugurated this Ring of Remembrance, which is an international memorial dedicated to the memory of the soldiers who fell in northern France between 1914 and 1918. This monument bears names of 580,000 soldiers of both sides, and the particularity is that it's in alphabetical order without any reference to nationality, rank, or religion. So you can find more than 50 nationalities. The first name is a Nepalese name, the last one is a German name. So this is the symbol for peace that you shouldn't miss. Another interesting place is the Wellington Quarry, where visitors can discover how the Allied soldiers prepared for the Battle of Arras and how they occupied their time while waiting to go into combat. The name is due, as you can guess, is due to the New Zealand tunneliers who dug in this quarry. The Franco-British Memorial of Thiepval, which is the largest British war memorial in the world, it's the place where took place the biggest ceremony on July the 1st, 2016. We expect the Queen to be there and many other heads of state. It commemorates the 72,000 men of the British and South African armies who died or were reported as missing in action between July 1915 and March 1918. The Dragon's Lair reminds the Chemin des Dames, which was one of the most important battlefields for French troops to free a region under German control. Dragon's Lair, the Chemin des Dames Museum, is one of old limestone quarry lying 14 meters underground where German and French troops both fought. The Bellewood Museum, which is also important because this is the biggest US cemetery of First World War, and it remembers the contribution of the USA during the First World War. The Fort de la Pompelle in Reims, which was one of the Reims defenses and now a museum dedicated to First World War. But it's also important to remember that apart from the different remembrance sites, you can also have some other activities, such as visit the Champagne in Reims. The Verdun and Douaumont ossuary, they are the most important memorial for French people. Important commemoration will take place on the 29th of May 2016, so this year, with some head of state, of course. And the remains of 130,000 unidentified French and German soldiers lie in this ossuary, preserving their memory. And at last, the Vosges front. So it's with the Fontenelle Cemetery and Hartmann's Villa Kopf. This is the place where the French and German fought hard over this observation post. And in 1915 alone, the peak changed end 4 times. So, as I mentioned, of course, you can visit all these remembrance sites and memorials, but there are many other events and activities that you can do, that you can offer to your clients. And for example, I will show you quickly some events and some family activities in northern France. I really think you should visit the Braderie of Lille, which is the biggest flea market in Europe, which takes place every year, the first weekend of September. and that gathers more than 1 million people into the capital of northern France, which is the city of Lille. A family activity that I can recommend you is also to visit the Louvre-Lens Museum, which is a brand new museum opened in 2012 in northern France, and which has more than 250 masterpieces coming directly from the Louvre in Paris. In Picardy, there are also really interesting events, such as a Christmas market, for example, with the beautiful Cathedral of Amiens, or the historical circuit in Lens, which takes place in next May. And also in Picardy, we can recommend you the cycling roads along the Somme Valley or the Lens Underground. In the Champagne, of course, you can visit the caves, and you can also discover some trails and walking routes, which is called the Light Trail. And you can also discover the Reims Jazz Festival next October. In Alsace, there's a beautiful exhibition in 2016, which takes place in the Wörth Museum. It's about World War I, War of Images, Images of War. I can recommend you this exhibition. And you can visit also, of course, the Alsace wine route or the ski station in La Bresse. You have a lot of accommodation along the Western Front, and we have a network of partners that are trained and know a lot about the First World War and what happened in the region. In Northern France, this network is called the Northern France Battlefields Partners. There are more than 220 professionals from all the tourism sector, which can be hosting providers, restaurants, tourist office, and that know a lot about this thematic, such as in the Somme, which is the Somme Battlefields Partners, but also is a network of 175 professionals from the tourism sector. At last, I would like to tell you that you can take part of a contest organized by Atout France, which is to win a trip for two to France. You have just to download the sales guide on this link that you can see on this screen, and you will have some questions, and you will be able to take part of a contest and win a trip to France. So we will be really pleased to welcome you in France and in the Western Front territory, and I thank you very much for your attention. Thank you.
Thank you, Agatha. That was great. Marco, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Great. Okay, so that was really interesting, and we have a couple of questions that I want to get to. The first question is about, can you email me a copy of the Canadian Remembered Sites, or do you know there's a resource that a travel agent can go to get those? I'm not sure that, I think you could post it, you could probably answer that.
Yes, well, for the Canadian Remembrance Sites, what I can offer is to send this presentation. Of course, it's free to download, and you will have a list of all the Canadian sites that I presented. And you can also find on the sales manual I talked about all the informations you need.
Marco, do you have anything to add to that?
Yes, I also have something that I can mail out that specifically highlights the Canadian memorials and remembrance sites in West Flanders. So there's definitely something I can put out to the participants as well.
Okay, so maybe I can get that from the speakers, from the two of you, and then I can include the links in our thank you email, because I'm sure other people would be interested in that. And I'll also include Agatha's and Marco's emails in the thank you email, and people can also contact you guys directly if they have any other questions. The next question is, are there special tours that take guests to all the commemorative sites? Sorry. If so, how long does it take in terms of days?
If I can answer for Flanders, there are actually tour companies out there that can do that within 1 day. It's actually a very interesting side note. There's actually a local tour company in Ypres. I said Ypres is the most central city in West Flanders. And the tour company is actually owned by a Canadian. So he is, it's been in Flanders for many, many years. And, he knows all the Canadian sites. I actually know him quite well. I've spoken to him a few times. I was just in Ypres actually last week. And he can definitely put together those like custom tours for you if you're just interested in seeing the Canadian sites. Of course, it's always interesting to see a little bit more than just your own sites. But if that's what you want, he can put that tour together. But I said, plan a day. Definitely plan some time in Ypres where you visit the Flanders Fields Museum, and then head out and then see all different sites. So 1 day is actually a good estimate to spend in Flanders Fields.
Yes, I think for Northern France it would be quite the same. I mean, if you want to visit the two major Canadian sites, that is to say the Vimerich and Beaumont-Hamel Memorial, you're just like 50 kilometers from each other. So you can visit the first one in the morning and the next one in the afternoon. If you want to visit the other Canadian sites I presented, for example, the cemetery in Vimereux, which is on the Opal coast, you will need maybe two days, because you need like 2 hours to go to the Opal coast. Coming back then to Vimerich and to Beaumont-Hamel, it will be quite short time if you just use one day.
Okay, that's great. And I think another person, Samantha, said she had a question, but she hasn't typed it in yet. Are there any other questions? Or maybe she had the same question. So, okay, well, it looks like that. Oh, her question got answered. Okay, great. Thanks, Samantha. So it looks like it. Thanks. Looks like that's it for now. Again, I'll be sending out a recording of this webinar with all the contact information for the speakers. So if you have any more questions for them, feel free to email them directly. And I want to thank everybody for attending the webinar today, and have a great day. Thank you, Marco, and thank you, Agatha.
Thank you,
everyone.
So are you still here? Okay.